let's take you now to Nigeria because the ruling party candidate Bola Tinbu has been declared as the winner of the country's presidential election. According to the results from the country's Independent Electoral Commission, the 70-year-old veteran politician got 37% of the total votes cast. His main rival, Atiku Abubakar, polled 29%, leaving Peter Obi of the Labour Party securing 25% of the total votes cast. The main opposition parties in Nigeria had earlier dismissed the poll as a sham and demanded a return of that contest. Mr. Tinubu based his campaign on his record of rebuilding the biggest city, Lagos, where he was once governor. He was nevertheless defeated in the city by Mr. Peter Obi, a relatively newcomer who mobilized the support of many young people, especially in the urban area, shaking up the country's two-party system. Tinubu won most other states in his home region of the Southwest, where he is known as a political godfather who helped put others into office. Here's the INEC chairperson declaring the winner of that contest.
That Tinubu Bola Ahmed of the APC, having satisfied the requirements of the law, is hereby declared the winner and is returned elected. Thank you.
Excitement there, but Tinubu himself was full of hope and optimism in his acceptance speech.
To all of you, I say, it's not the night to address the party members and leadership. But you can't do acceptance speech and just leave. To me, I will do more than that. I first start by saying thank you to our national leadership, the national chairman, Senator Abdullahi. Thank you, you from Senate, governorship, and made history of navigating a very large political party to make a president. It's not a small letter in history. It's a big letter of achievement. A great day. Thank you very much. God bless you. To the entire members of the National Working Committee, and particularly the Secretary of the party, Iyola Omisore, who had worked with him, collecting some forms, doing everything administratively to get us to comply with the requirement of National Electoral Commission. We thank you for a good job done, and you've navigated the ship and taught us teamship to get us to this destination. The ship did not sink or waver. We anchor well on the President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinbu.
Well, so that's the acceptance speech by Ahmed Bola Tinbu, who is now the president-elect of Nigeria. But there's a reaction from the opposition parties. Already the Labour Party, one of the key contenders in this year's election, is beginning to kick back and fight back the results affirmed by the INEC. Let's listen to the vice presidential candidate of the Labour Party address the press a while ago.
Free and fair elections. That is the best that we know. Nigerians must, just like we are continuing the struggle, Nigerians must continue the struggle by exercising their rights.
David, yes, good afternoon, sir. Kingsley, Daily Independent. Many Nigerians believe, of course, they have valid reasons to believe so, that the judiciary has been compromised by other arms of government. How much confidence do you have that if your matter, if your case gets to the Supreme Court, you will get justice in return?
Irrespective of the low level of confidence you have in any system, your responsibility is your responsibility. Nigerians contested the 2023 presidential elections through Peter Obi and my humble self. We are going to keep the struggle alive, irrespective of the very low confidence we have in any system. We had extremely low confidence in the promise of the government that there will be free and fair elections, yet we went ahead. We went ahead into the elections. So it doesn't matter how low the confidence it is in the judiciary, the law is the law. And what's even, look, there's the confidence we have in them, and there is the confidence we have in ourselves and in our case. These are two different things. The confidence we have in ourselves and in our case is that elections, so to say, were not held. Because from the polling units, the Electoral Act 2002 as amended provided the direct transmission of results. It is that direct transmission of results that says elections were held. They were not transmitted. What results are you giving? If there are no results, what election are you talking about? Now, going to the registration areas or ward collection units, no INEC returning officer, he or she, shall make entries without making reference to the existing ongoing concurrent IREV, active IREV, which did not exist. How did they collate? If there was no valid collation, what results are you talking about? If there are no results, what election are you talking about? Illegality has been performed. And as far as we're concerned, here is an incoming government for the Federal Republic of Nigeria that is illegal and unconstitutional. As far as we're concerned, it is now for we're submitting our case to the court of law. It is for them, irrespective of how much confidence the world or Africa or Nigerians have in them, irrespective, it is for them to show again that level of confidence.
Okay, any more? Yes. Please, let somebody else.
Well, so a press briefing there by the Labour Party, which is rejecting the outcome of Nigeria's 2023 presidential race. But some more organizations are beginning to ask for tensions to be doused in Nigeria with fears that there may be a spillover effect into the entire West Africa sub-region. We're being joined via Zoom now by Abiom Obisam. He is a media analyst joining us from Nigeria. Also, Yaro Kasambata is a coordinator of the Center of Peace and Security Research at the University of Professional Studies here in Accra. Yaro, thank you for your time. We're beginning to see that tension is on the rise in Nigeria. And for you, the security analysts and experts, you are asking for some mediation moves to begin, else there may be a ripple effect in the sub-region. Why?
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity. Mediation and the peaceful processes in every electoral dispute is the only means to ensuring that we can keep the process going whilst we keep, arm and limbs intact. The situation where elections result in violent conflict, misunderstandings, only escalates beyond the elections itself, creating new avenues for insecurity, and especially in Nigeria, that can have very rippling effect, given the already established security situation of Nigeria. The three dimensions which have largely been discussed globally. One is the insecurity from non-state armed actors. Okay, here we are talking about violent extremists, who are very active in their operations in Nigeria. We are also looking at the deteriorating economic conditions in Nigeria, which makes the quality of life poorer, falling into the broad category of human security. And then you are now looking at the broad issue of criminality generally, the growing criminal activities in Nigeria, and the general feeling of insecurity by average Nigerians who live there and experience the insecurities every day. Now, this is a profile of what you're dealing with. To have this in the background and have electoral disputes lingering in the corner can be a lethal combination for Nigeria if all these come together in one melting pot. This is why peaceful mediation should be the only way in resolving this electoral disputes. After all, there are issues that are being disputed along legalities, procedures being breached, laws not being properly enforced, issues of transparency, where now fingers are being pointed at the Supreme Court that we can go there and have issues resolved. If the Supreme Court has the ability to unravel the mystery of the Nigeria's election and putting all the chips where they belong to, we can be able to resolve this without having to lose a limb or that inflammatory security situation everyone is fearing. So yes, peaceful mediation processes should be the only way out for Nigeria in this circumstance.
Let me bring in Abiodun, who's joining us from Nigeria as well. It appears we've lost him there. But I was just going to point to what the president of the country himself has been indicating. For President Muhammadu Buhari, this is a revelation, quote, that democracy is ripening in Nigeria. That's his view of the election. This will not help matters, will it?
Democracy, by its very nature, contains the very seeds of its own destruction. We saw that in the United States election recently. The scenes we saw in the United States elections are typical of African elections. What that confirmed for us is that elections are, by their very nature, emotive, they are highly inflammatory, and can result in violence irrespective of the race and the continent. For a whole country like the United States to have its capital besieged by angry mob because they believe the election was stolen should tell you that there is something intrinsic about election itself. And so, yes, the president at his very position now should be sounding the way he's sounding, that democracy is growing. And that is also important for Nigeria, given their peculiar history. We share some few things in common with Nigeria. Having successive, military interventions, now having to have successive elections since 1999 should be giving the Nigerian president the opportunity to sound the way he's sounding. But should it just be the mere motion of going through, procedural democracy, where the time has come, let us do something called elections. And so we have established the institution, the processes are known, the date is fixed. Let's go through the motion, because democracy requires that we do what is known as elections. So let's do it. Or are we concerned about quality processes? Are we concerned about quality engagement? Are we concerned about how we can improve the entire process? Are we concerned about diminishing all doubts every year, every election year, so that if the doubts of the last 4 years election were that high, have we worked hard to reduce the doubt around this election? That is how we can measure the growth of democracy.
Yeah, but
merely establishing, procedural democracy, where it becomes ceremonial, that the time has come to do an election. Let's do it, and then the outcome, as we are seeing and hearing, are all the time, hotly contested and disputed, should be a cause for worry.
Okay, Kingsley Bassey is also joining us from Nigeria. He's a journalist there. And Kingsley, I was just earlier pointing to that press briefing by the Labour Party. We know that the PDP is also not happy about the outcome of the election. But what's the general feel in Nigeria as we speak?
Yeah, good evening, Tinbu. Well, the general feeling depends on what side of the divide you belong to as a Nigerian, and essentially, for many persons, especially the youth population who supported the Labour Party presidential candidate, who, by the way, in this election enjoyed enormous support from a lot of Nigerians. For them, it's been hugely disappointing, the numbers. And speaking with a lot of them, it's not necessarily because the candidate lost, but because of the nature and of that loss, and then the processes which led to that. As a matter of fact, I think they're still there at the moment. I can't confirm immediately, but there were protests at the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, the city where the announcement was made, and the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, the governing party, Bola Ahmed Tinbu, was declared president at midnight today. So the feeling, essentially for some, of course, the supporters of the governing party and its candidate, are very excited, but for many others across social media platforms, you could feel the pulse. That so many persons aren't excited about the result.
Right. The election observer missions are asking all aggrieved parties to use peaceful means of addressing this challenge. What's the unique opening or opportunities here within the electoral laws of Nigeria? What could a candidate, for instance, do after the declaration?
Well, essentially to go to court, to gather evidences and go to court. And about an hour ago, the vice presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Dati Baba, did hold an international press conference where he said they were definitely going to court. And we hear that the presidential candidate, Peter Obi, would be addressing the press soon. We're looking forward to that. But essentially, it's gathered evidences for aggrieved parties, just go to court and present your case. Also, with the Electoral Act 2022, is the option for the Electoral Commission to review these grievances, these allegations, and all that the opposition has said they're not comfortable with. Review the result, and even before going to court, they have the chance. That's the Electoral Commission now has the chance to say, okay, we admit that at this polling unit, certain voters were disenfranchised, or at this polling unit, the results were manipulated, and so we want to cancel the result, this particular election, and other run. There is that. Well, essentially for political parties, gather evidences of electoral practices and go to court.
And pockets of protests are beginning to erupt in various parts of the country. How are the security agencies dealing with that?
At the moment, they're very peaceful. Hopefully, it stays that way. Peaceful protest, and it's just what it is. Security agents playing their part, ensuring that it's their job to provide security for these protesters, and so they're playing by the rules at the moment. We're hoping really that again it stays that way, and people just get placards stating several things. That's just the situation at the moment. I did mention a few minutes ago that in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory, a famous musician, probably called Charlie Boy, led the protests today, and he's generally, like many other persons, asking and demanding that the Electoral Commission cancel the results and either recount or other fresh elections, really.
Right. And I'm grateful. We'll keep watching the space. Thank you, Kingsley Bassey, for joining us all the way from Nigeria. Let's wrap up, Yaro. So going forward, we've seen during the pre-election period a number of elderly statesmen from across the West Africa sub-region, also election observer missions, and some other groups moving to Nigeria. What should they be doing post the election period, in your view?
Well, the peaceful engagement, backdoor diplomacy, which they commenced prior to the elections, is what they should be continuing. It is expected that they would engage broadly all the aggrieved parties in the elections, and especially to appeal to them to get their supporters to toe the line of taking official cues of let's follow due process. We are going to the Supreme Court, or we are taking legal processes to examine where we were shortchanged in this election. Therefore, let's temper the desire for violence, because already, as we've indicated, Nigeria has all the indications of a country that can easily unravel, with all the existing security indicators that we have. Prior to the elections, in fact, weeks to the elections, the government attempted conducting a very sensitive economic operation where new currencies were supposed to be exchanged for the older ones to be withdrawn. Now, this situation has led a lot of people without money to live on. They are stranded, and the extent of desperation, is immeasurable. Right. Now, this environment can be a very, fertile ground to foment trouble. Okay. And in an election that has fallen below the expectations of a section of Nigeria, that may be all it takes, to get the situation to unravel. So the peaceful backdoor diplomacy, the shuttling up and down from all the angles of the people involved in the elections are what it will take to get us through these sensitive period of Nigeria's elections.
We need to go. Thanks, Yaro, for joining us here on The Pulse.